Welcome to Garden of the Mind, where we reduce stress, improve our health and fitness, and improve our financial IQ every episode.
We must believe more than we see.
Yes, villagers, today I had to suspend the normal scheduling of my show today because of this new virus, COVID-19. So today is a safety check. We want to make sure that you and your family are okay and you are taking this to be as serious as it really is. Today I went out of my house and I saw people walking, talking, doing everything as if everything was a normal day. There was no distinction as this day was any different than any other day in terms of the COVID-19 virus. Now, I didn't want to be presumptuous and figure that the reason why the other people left their home was any less of a reason than the reason why I left my home. But the point that I'm making is, for all intents and purposes, on the surface, it looked like a regular day. I could not see a whole lot of precautions that were being taken in terms of the seriousness of this particular illness. Now, I also noticed on social media they were keeping score to see exactly how close to the community it was. Now, I don't want people to get lulled into the false sense of security that this is just another day and everything is okay and it's business as usual. Because business is anything but usual. You have everything closing at this point. You have stadiums, you have concerts, you have movies, you have bars, restaurants, the school system. If nothing else, let's look at the writing on the wall. Now let's think for a minute. This is a capitalist country. So businesses look to provide a service, but they look to increase their profit margin. By them closing, that decreases their profit margin. It's my experience that businesses do not decrease their profit margin unless there is a huge reason to do that. Nobody leaves money on the table. So if money appears to be left on the table, that is because it's easier for them to pay whatever it is that they're paying now, which is the price for not filling the seats and not staying open. That means there's a much bigger price to pay later on down the line. So it appears that no company wants to incur that level of liability. But what that means for us is that this thing is pretty serious. So whether you're seeing people get sick or not, outside, this thing is very serious. We have to take all of the precautions that they're telling us to do. Now, if they're telling us to wash our hands, let's wash our hands. If they're telling us to avoid contact with our hands and our face, then let's try not to touch our face. If they're telling us to limit human contact, well, let's limit human contact. Let's not get lulled into the false sense of security that this is being hyped by the media and it's being overblown and the media is creating hysteria. Now, I certainly agree that the media can create some hysteria, but when you look at the backdrop of stadiums shutting down, businesses shutting down, restaurants, schools, you name it, most things are shutting down at this particular point in time. That shows and highlights the severity of this, even if we don't necessarily see it. Now, thank God, most of us are healthy, so even if we were to contract this virus, the chances of us living are very, very large. So most of us, it's not unto death. However, there is a certain portion of us who are very vulnerable, who we might be able to pass this along. These are the people who I'm most worried for. Now, these are people who have pre-existing medical conditions. They could be young or old, but mostly what we hear is people who are middle-aged to elderly who have pre-existing medical conditions who unfortunately succumb to this virus. Let's do our part by not spreading it, by not going out, by limiting our human contact. This is an unprecedented thing. We've never experienced anything like this in the history of the world. This is something that's never happened before. We are out in waters we've never seen before. Please take it seriously. They don't know everything, because if they did, they would be able to have this virus cured and there wouldn't be this big pandemic. However, if we know that this virus spreads through human contact, let's do our best to limit that. Let's not look around and see how bad it is from the people who are around us. Let's look greater and look at the whole country, the whole world for that instance, and see how it's affecting the entire world, and see if we can have a global approach to our prevention of this. This situation is going to get worse before it gets better. Now, they're talking about doing a 14-day quarantine. Now, that hasn't been verified at this time, but if I'm reading the tea leaves right, something like this is going to happen. So what we have to do at this point is we have to keep our same optimistic attitude, but we also have to get prepared. So we have to start thinking about what it is that we are going to need and start to go to the store and purchase those things. Let's not buy them all up, because if we do that, then we won't have enough for our neighbors who we're also responsible for. So buy whatever it is that you think is necessary for yourself. So if there was a 14-day quarantine, your quality of life should not be heavily affected if you plan for it now. Now, I'm not trying to inspire fear. I am certainly not trying to do that. I just want us to be careful, be aware, and start to take the proper precautions. The Bible says watch as well as pray. And God is still in control. And God has brought us through all of these other viruses, the swine flu, Ebola, H1N1. Those probably are the same ones. I don't know. All of these different viruses seem to threaten to take over the world in much the same way that this virus is doing. We know that this too shall pass, but it will only pass if we take our proper precautions and we do what we're supposed to do in terms of washing our hands and limiting contact. Please don't take this lightly. Go to the store and get emergency supplies. Get candles, get flashlights, get batteries, get medications. All of the medications that you may possibly need, get those. Get some supplies for your pet. Whether you have a dog, cat, bird, make sure that you have enough supplies for that animal as well. Now, this is not the time to get sad or scared. It's the time for us to get prepared and choose a mentality that we know is going to serve us and not hurt us. So during this time, let's find a blessing in this. So if we are quarantined, look at it as a blessing. Look at this almost as a forced vacation if you can, or if they don't make you work from home. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that we're going to look on the bright side of things. We are going to make sure that we pull out a blessing for ourselves, and we're going to pray because we know that God is still in control and God still will see us through as he has so many times before. This is not the time for your faith to fail you. This is a time for you to increase your faith and see exactly how God works. Now, on Wednesday, I'll talk about the foods that you need to have inside your cabinet should we go through a quarantine. And remember, thoughts are actions, words have power, and actions have consequences. Let's make sure that we're choosing the right words in our mind to manifest themselves in a positive way inside this crisis, and we'll get through this too. I'll see you for Wednesday.